I just crossed 1,000 YouTube subscribers. Woo! Finally, it didn't happen overnight, but I have learned in this time 5 things that have helped me that I'm just going to share if you're just getting started with your YouTube channel or just thinking about it. Let's dive in. Hey, what's up? I'm Ray Green, former executive turned nomad entrepreneur. And for the past 5 years, I have been creating content online. And that has enabled me to generate more than $3 million in online sales as a consultant and a strategic growth partner for B2B companies. And the vast majority of that was driven by LinkedIn, where I have built about 35,000 followers and where most of the revenue and audience and stuff that we have built has really come from and driven to my email list. But a year and a half ago, give or take, I started posting on YouTube. The goal with it was really to get to a channel where content had a longer tail, right? Like where I could create something and it could be seen for days, weeks, months, maybe even years. Whereas on, platforms like LinkedIn, you post and it's basically gone the next day or within 48 hours. So I wanted content that had a longer tail. I also wanted something that allowed me to create assets for my marketing and sales funnels, right? Like, so I could create something for online, like for you, and then I could put these things strategically in like my booking funnel or in my pipeline or in the email sequences or something. And YouTube allows you to do that. And frankly, I wanted a channel that over the long haul is something that allows you to generate income without actually having to sit on a treadmill of engagement and, connecting with other creators and just like constantly trying to hammer away in the comments and the DMs and shit like that. So I went into YouTube with that mindset, and that's with publishing videos every single week. So I have been consistent for about a year and a half now with getting a video up at least once a week. Now, recently we went to 2 a week and possibly we'll do more. And we have found a lot of ways to repurpose the content here into other channels as opposed to other channels being the main source for us. Now, what I can tell you is that looking back over this, it has been a haul. Like, it has been a big learning curve. It has been a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of frustration, frankly. I mean, there were weeks and months where you're like, why am I here? Like 40 people watch this video. Like, I can go to LinkedIn and get thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of views. And there were times where I thought, I don't know if it's really worth the haul. Now, YouTube has a steep learning curve. Like, there are things that you've got to figure out. So what I'm going to do is just share 5 of the things that I kind of wish I had known when I got started. Now, let me clarify. I'm not proclaiming to be a YouTube expert. Like, I have 1,000 subscribers, and by most measures of people doing YouTube, it's minuscule. It's a microscopic, subscriber count, but it is something, right? It is something that I've worked pretty hard at, and we have chipped away, and there's been a lot of learning during that time. So I'm just going to share what the 5 big takeaways for me were in this phase, and I'm going to start counting, like, how much quicker does the second 1,000 come, and the third 1,000, and the fourth 1,000, because I have a feeling it's going to be exponential at some point, but we are definitely not there. And this is just high level. This is me talking to me a year and a half ago that said, hey, watch this video. This is literally a kind of beginner telling an actual beginner, at least do these things. You've got to nail the big 3. And the big 3 are, you've got to get the thumbnail, you've got to get the title, and you've got to get the hook. You've got to nail all 3 of those. Now, I kind of knew that. Like, I'd been told that. Like, if you just Google some basic advice, you're like, hey, how do I get started on YouTube? It's like, hey, have a good thumbnail and have a good title and have a good hook. But I didn't know what that meant. Clarity is so important. Like, telling people what they're going to get is monumentally more valuable than trying to be really cute, really clever, really creative. If I cover the title of your video and I'm looking at just the thumbnail, can I get a sense of what that is? Like, does it tell me anything? And for a long time, I'm not sure ours did. Like, they were, not only were they kind of boring and bland, but they also weren't very clear. Clarity trumps creativity in this case. Like, what does it tell you something? And then congruency is also a big part of this. So imagine looking at the feed. Does the thumbnail pop and does it catch my attention and tell me something about that I might want to watch that? If it does, my eyes are going to go to the title. Is that congruent? Like, is it consistent? Does the title then give me a little bit more information, right? Like, the thumbnail hooked me in. The title now gets me interested. Right? So I'm like, piqued my interest, now gets me interested. When I click, is it pretty clear that you're following through on this promise? What I want to know is, with all these fancy thumbnails that are out there, the biggest thing I'm concerned about as a user is like wasting my time on like clickbait that's, completely irrelevant. I see the thumbnail, I see the title, I click it. Does it tell me what I'm going to get really quickly? And if you can knock those 3 things out, then you're off to a really good head start. So look for clarity, look for consistency, and nail thumbnail, title, and hook. Okay, now the second thing is YouTube is a quality game. It makes sense to invest a little bit more time into better content. Now, what I can tell you is looking at the videos that we have, like we had one just recently that just like really by our, relative to our other content, just really took off. Like it was thousands of views, and it was an hour and a half full deep dive into LinkedIn. It took a while to get to put together. It was an 8-page checklist comes with it. It's got links. It's like a complete breakdown of how to build your client acquisition system, how I'm using LinkedIn. There's a lot of work. My editor had to do a lot more work. I had to, it was obviously from a recording standpoint, getting the materials ready. So a lot more work. But if you actually look at the numbers, that video accounts for 30 other videos. Like consistency, I'm sure matters to some degree, although that's not one of my 5. It might be better if I did one really good video every couple weeks as opposed to a whole bunch of shitty videos every single day. One way you're trying to just hack the algorithm. But after you nail those top 3, it is a quality game. It is like YouTube is measuring how long do people stay with this thing? Like how many times is it getting shared? Like how valuable is this content? And if it's good, it will get shared. The third thing I would say, and I'm actually stealing this from Alex Hormozi, you've got to create content for new people, right? So for a while, what I was doing was I was assuming that the vast majority of people were coming from my LinkedIn audience or coming from my email list, which is pretty strong, and coming to my YouTube video. So I was creating content as if everyone knew who I was. Hormozi a while back did some research on the content they were creating, and he said he kind of had this aha moment where it was like, hey, you know what? I'm here to build my audience. And if I'm building my audience, I have to do that under the assumption that the person watching this video doesn't know who I am. Not that this person's been following my content on LinkedIn for 3 years. I have to assume it's the first person on YouTube who's ever seen it, and it shows up in their feed. And so I need to tell them really quickly why you should bother listening to me. If I'm doing some sales-related content, I'm going to talk about, I've turned around 8 sales teams. I'm going to talk about how I used to run sales for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, how I've led turnarounds for private equity groups. Like I'm going to say those things really quickly. And the person from LinkedIn who already knows me is like, man, I'm tired of hearing Ray say that on his videos, probably. But for all the new people, they now know, okay, like, I guess I'll continue watching this. All right. Now, the fourth thing I would say about YouTube is it requires focused attention. The first 6 to 9 months, I was doing it on the side while LinkedIn was our real focus, right? It was like, hey, you know what we'll do? We'll keep the LinkedIn machine going and we'll start creating some videos on the side. It was kind of get one up a week. I wasn't paying too much attention. I wasn't looking at the data. I wasn't looking at, okay, like this had like click-through rates. We weren't testing different thumbnails. We weren't thinking about like being really strategic with the titles or even the content that we were creating. Once we flipped it, once we found better ways to repurpose YouTube content for LinkedIn, instead of creating those as 2 separate channels, and giving me more time and more attention and energy to focus on creating YouTube videos and increasing the volume and increasing the quality of what we were doing and being a little bit more deliberate about, hey, let's test a thumbnail or 2, or hey, this video really popped. Why do you think it popped? Let's go back and look at the intro. That focused attention has made a world of difference. Our curve in terms of subscribers and views is increasing. Now, we're still, again, we're very, very early in this phase, and I'm by no means an expert, but I can tell you is that the amount of learning that I've gotten after that initial, call it 6 to 9 months of just doing it on the side versus what we're doing now, the learning that we are getting now as a result of what we're looking at and the adjustments that we're making is significantly higher, which means we're going to iterate and optimize much more quickly. And so we're going to see results much more quickly. So for me, finding a way to make this the core focus and finding better ways to leverage what I'm doing here through systems to get this over to other channels so I have to spend less time on those has been a game changer for me. And then 5th, YouTube is a long game, right? If you're thinking, hey, you know what? I'm gonna hop on YouTube, I'm gonna create my channel, I'm gonna throw up 5 videos and I'm gonna see how they do, and then if that's your approach, like just fuck it, like don't bother. At least this is my experience and that of like several friends and stuff that I have here. When I look at the creators and the YouTubers that I kind of look up to, right? Like I'm either because I love their content or just in terms of how they've grown here. Many of them, like people with millions of followers today, like they have been at this for a long, long time, and, it's not an overnight deal. And even at a year and a half, I'm still looking at this like a 5-year deal, 10-year deal. I knew going into this that YouTube was not going to have a quick turnaround. I knew I wasn't going to pop and, build up a really quick subscriber base. But even with that, I was still really disappointed at times. I was still like, man, this is slow. Now, again, I could have put more focus on it and maybe done some more iteration, but, we've been here every week. And I credit the fact that I went into this knowing this is going to be a lot of work. I'm not really expecting any immediate returns, and I'm playing the long game here. I credit that mindset with being here today, because there's a million times between, when I started and now that I would have said, fuck this. Like, it's not worth it. It's not producing returns. It's not, I can't measure the ROI immediately. I can't, the traffic to my website isn't huge. So from a data standpoint, like looking how to quantify this within the first 6 months, I would have said this doesn't make any sense, right? Like just kill that project. But I was playing the long game, and everyone that I know that has done really well here has played the long game. Now, what does that mean? It means, 1, set your expectations right. It also means, 2, think about content that you can create consistently, sustainably, and not burn out. Don't start a strategy that you can't sustain for 2 years. Right? Like, don't start something that you are going to burn out in 2 months on. Start something that you can do consistently and sustainably, and you can kind of weather these times where you're like, hey, there's not many indications that this is going really well. Think about that as you go into it. Like, what is a content strategy or a cadence that you can do over the long haul? And that also includes the content itself. One thing that's made YouTube a lot easier for me is for a while I was very niched on, like productizing or this or that. And now I just create content that, one, we're measuring things and we're looking at it, but it's also content I want to create, right? And it's also content I'm just really good at, right? If you get me talking about building sales teams, if you get me talking about, sales processes and strategies and, scaling up a B2B company, it comes naturally to me. When I'm talking about a topic that I'm like maybe not super comfortable with, then it's going to be harder for me to create that content. Like, if I was sitting here trying to tell you, listen, I'm the YouTube guru and here's what you need to do this, I just wouldn't deliver that message very well. And I would have to practice it and script it, and it would be energy draining. And frankly, the reward and the feedback loop on it just wouldn't be worth it. So I have found that creating content, find your niche, whatever, and find, your market, and, if you have some brand strategy, like, cool. But also make sure you actually kind of enjoy the content, because if you don't, it's really easy to burn out. So that's all I've got. I can't wait to watch this in a year and see how I disagree with myself. But this is really the learning that I've had up to this point. And I had a friend reach out recently and say, hey, wanted to chat about, I was thinking about starting a YouTube channel. This is basically the video I want to send. Here's what I think, and here's what I know so far. So I hope it's helpful for you. And if you're getting started, feel free to, comment below. If I can answer some questions, I certainly will. And if you want some more business tips, sales tips for your business, feel free to subscribe to the channel. But no, I'm probably not going to post a whole bunch of how to YouTube stuff. This is a one-off. Adios.